This conference will now be recorded.
Now
it's on.
Yeah. I don't know, Madam Chair, should we start? Seems all we've done is the roll call and the minutes. I'm sorry, you're muted.
Maybe we will start over.
Sorry about
you
that.
can call the roll, please, Marie.
Oh. Okay, Mr. King? Oh, everybody's muted.
Here.
Mr. Zabo?
Here.
Ms. Himmelein?
Here.
Mr. Cott?
Here.
Mr. Krigi?
Here.
First item of business is to approve minutes from the August 12th meeting. I think we've noted that there's a correction to that. Having to do with, John, what was the farm book for farm?
Did Farm Creek Lane?
Farm Creek. So with that notation, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second. Krigi.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Okay, Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Zabo?
Yes.
Ms. Himmelein?
Yes.
Mr. Cott?
Yes.
Mr. Krigi?
Yes.
Now, if everybody can mute their microphones, I think Daryl.
Okay, thank you for that. And my apologies. Now I just need to figure out the sharing the screen thing here. Okay, can everybody see that, the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Not sure why it's coming up so small like that, though. Okay, here we
There's
go.
a Zoom feature on the side of the screen you can use.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that then. Section 3103 of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution prohibits billboard signs. These are defined in the zoning resolution as an advertisement for an establishment, service, merchandise, or entertainment which is not sold, produced, manufactured, or furnished at the property on which the said sign is located, 100 square feet or larger. Section 3109 of the zoning resolution currently permits off-premise signs with any or all within any or all agriculture, commercial, and industrial districts, provided the height of those signs does not exceed 15 feet above grade and the maximum sign area does not exceed 72 square feet. Off-premise signs can be sited no closer than 500 feet from another off-premise sign. The applicant is proposing amendments to the zoning resolution that would allow for large off-premise signs, that is billboard signs, to be as tall as 35 feet and a maximum sign area of 382 square feet. The proposed amendment would also increase the minimum distancing between off-premise signs from the current 500 feet to 5,000 feet. This is a revision from the applicant's original proposal specifying a 2,500 foot minimum distance. In the revised request, these signs would be allowed only in a C2 district and only by conditional use approval. The original request also included the M1, M2, and M3 industrial districts. Under the current off-premise sign regulations, no conditional use approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals is required, only a permit from the Township Zoning Department. The fee for this permit is $50 and is typically approved within a couple of days. Under the proposed amendment, an applicant for any size of an off-premise sign would be required to submit to the conditional use process prior to and in addition to applying for the zoning permit. This is an additional $250 fee and involves 2 public meetings. Per Article 25 of the zoning resolution, all conditional use requests, with the exception of home occupations, are first reviewed by the Lucas County Plan Commission. That body makes a recommendation of approval or disapproval to the BZA. This is normally a 2 to 3 month process and requires public notification. Staff maintains that this would present an unnecessary inconvenience to an applicant for an off-premise sign not of billboard size. In the interest of improving the aesthetics of commercial signage within the township, the regulations on monument, aka low-profile signs, were amended a few years ago to provide a greater flexibility in sign design, as well as to encourage the use of monument signs over pole signs. This has been met with some success. Staff is of the opinion that the subject request allowing billboards would be counterproductive to the purpose of revising the monument signs in order to enhance aesthetics. Further, the Lucas County Plan Commission staff report dated August 26, 2020 highlights additional concerns with billboard signs such as visual obstruction of neighboring businesses, the township's lack of ability to control the content presented on these signs, and the negative impact on nearby property values and vacancy rates. The Plan Commission voted to recommend disapproval of the requested amendment to the township. Staff recommends disapproval of the requested amendments to Articles 14 and 31 of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution.
So Daryl, is the basic gist of this that we've had an applicant who's come on board or come forward and asked just for us to amend our zoning request in order to put up a bigger sign someplace? Not on their premises?
Yeah, I mean, I think the applicant can probably address that better, but it wouldn't be a sign for that business. It would be an off-premise sign,
Okay.
but it would be billboard size, not within our regulations for an off-premise sign we currently
On
have.
the agenda, these are items 5.2 and 5.3, both of them together, right? I mean, one's Article 14, one's Article 31.
Yes.
Okay. Now, is there somebody who's dialed in here, who has logged in, who would like to address the zoning commission on this issue?
Yes, Madam Chairman, my name is Charles Bloom. I'm an attorney and I'm representing the applicant. After reviewing the staff's report, Mr. Grattis's comments on making this a conditional use, I think, are well taken. So the applicant wishes to withdraw that portion of the amendment. And in other words, as to 3109B and as to 1402, believe that it would be a conditional use. I think it's the places where this kind of sign will be allowed is very limited, essentially based upon the application of 3109. The only place where this type of sign, an off-premise sign of this size, would be allowed would be on Central Avenue, east of McCord and west of Holland, Sylvania. Last week, my client submitted a map which locates where they'd like to place this off-premise sign and the area where it would be allowed other than where my client wants to place it. The existing 3109 limitation in reality precludes all off-premise signs. A sign of 72 square foot is not economically viable, and quite frankly, this is illusionary in nature. So what this amendment would do would be essentially to preclude off-premise signs except in this one area. I would call your attention to the fact that there is a picture as an example of the proposed sign. The picture by illustration is a picture of a sign that is presently existing in Springfield Township in an area that is very similar to the area where this applicant wants to construct this sign. modern digital signs are not like billboard signs. They're all through the country, especially in urban areas. They create an excitement for the neighborhood, not blight. As I indicated, and this sign would be similar to the Taylor sign. And quite frankly, all of the concerns have not arisen since the Taylor sign was erected. There has been no devaluation of property values in the area around the Taylor sign. There's been no increase in vacancy rates. There's been no decline in residential neighborhoods. One of the reasons why my client went forward in this area is because, quite frankly, there are no residential areas in proximity to the proposed site. The resolution as it presently is written ensures that will not happen. There are requirements that it must be so many feet from any residence, so many feet from a residential subdivision. And as I've indicated, there are no residents in proximity. There also, they voiced concern, the professional staff voiced concern as to the content, that the township would not be able to control the content of off-premise signs. Putting aside the constitutional problems with trying to do that, quite frankly, the marketplace governs content. Off-premise signs are usually rented by national advertising companies, and they are not going to allow their clients to put up objectionable content. There also was a reference to that somehow national advertisers will be detrimental to local advertisers. I think if we step back and really analyze that proposition, Jeep advertising its product on this sign isn't going to be detrimental to York Jeep franchise. And most of the national advertisers have some contact with local businesses, and in fact, what will happen, it will promote the local business. As to the distraction or the concern that this sign will somehow cover up local signs, although that might be a concern in other areas, all of the signs presently are monument signs. And therefore, this sign is not going to distract or cover up monument signs, nor will it be distractive, because even if this change is made and a permit is granted, the applicant will still have to get a permit from the state of Ohio. And the state of Ohio governs how frequent there can be change, the intensity of the light, and all of those factors which one would be concerned about distracting a driver. I would submit, therefore, that there really is no reason not to grant this request, other than a lingering disdain for off-premise advertising. But that has changed over the years. This is very different than the traditional billboards. And there is very little likelihood that, given the parameters that are set forth in this change, there will be an inundation of billboards throughout the township. In fact, when that concern was raised by the professional staff, that's why the applicant requested and asked to change this limitation to only C2 districts. And when we got through the township, the only place where this will qualify is along Central Avenue. So I would submit that this is a reasonable use of this property. This is a tailored and very limited change, and that this will in fact enhance this neighborhood, which is under a change for the better, quite frankly, and bring some excitement to this area. And for that reason, the applicant would ask you to approve and recommend the adoption of these amendments.
Thank you. Daryl, I have a quick question. If they're requesting a change to this conditional use, is that already reflected in the text of what we'd be voting on? Or is that a change you'd have to make?
No, that's reflected in Exhibit A, 1402, conditional uses.
Oh, it's in there. I just wanted to make
It's
sure.
listed under their off-premise sign.
Is there anybody else who wishes to address the zoning commission on this issue? Yes?
Ms. Himmelein, may I address the commission?
Sure, go ahead.
Jim Shrikowski. Okay, thank you. Jim Shrikowski, I'm the property owner I'm not the applicant in this case. When I was approached by the applicant about a billboard, my reflex was no, not Sylvania Township. They just don't belong. But you know, I wanted to listen to what they had to say, and you know, let's be real candid here. I mean, planners generally don't like bigger signs or billboards. Sylvania Township doesn't have any billboards, but go down Monroe Street, we have plenty of billboards that you see in the township. My first concern was I didn't want a proliferation of billboards in Sylvania Township. And that's part of the reason the language is so tight. You know, over the years, I've sat on many committees, including several steering committees here for the township land use, and I've heard input from many different sides, and the discussion about billboards as it comes up. The bottom line is basically from Holland, Sylvania to McCord, Central Avenue is kind of its own island of retail, and we lost control years ago of billboards. And I shouldn't say it that way. I mean, not billboards, but signage. I remember, you can go back in some minutes, Daryl, and I can quote some people that when signs came up on Central Avenue. You know, I'm very comfortable that the language is written in such a way that it's not going to open up a lot of other billboards. You just can't. And it's not going to be any of those uses where we don't have good step-down zoning, where, you know, there's a lot of industrial districts abutting our districts, especially in Sylvania and King. And this really doesn't have any of that. You know, the bottom line is, when they approached me, my support of a billboard means something in our community. I've always had a rule of thumb, whether I'm sitting where you folks are that vote, or if I'm sitting out here in the audience, my rule of thumb has always been, would I want that next door to me? Would that have a negative impact on my property? And you try to balance that with other property owners' rights. And frankly, I think this zoning commission, that is your job. That's why you're appointed by the trustees, to be the balance between regulation and liberties, and do it at a local level. And your concerns are for the betterment of the township as a whole. And I think that in this particular case, number one, if you're ever going to put a off-premise signage, whatever you want to call it, Charles, we all know it as billboards, this would be the only place in the township that makes any sense. And I think that it is an appropriate and good use for the community, for the area. But also, Sylvania Township's lost its identity in the last few years in so much land that's been annexed. And I think we've talked about embellishing the sign. I don't know, Daryl, if you show the sign, but it shows Sylvania Township on the top. I would proclaim the maple leaf. I'd want it in there. You can put that in the minutes, Mrs. Tucker. And I would like to even see, wearing my old CIC hat, Timberstone District banner at the bottom, you know, identifying our business districts as we created in the CIC so many years ago. So those are really my comments, Ms. Himmelein.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the zoning commission on this issue? Hearing none, is there any comments or questions from the members for the people who have addressed us or for Daryl, or comments about the proposal?
Hey, did I miss the exact location of this proposed sign somewhere?
If I may, it's described in the application, but it is essentially midway between the exit of US 23 and McCord Road.
Okay.
It's on the north side. There's housing that's attenuated to the south side, but there's virtually no housing to the north side.
Okay.
Essentially,
I know this is more a language change request, but I was wondering where specifically that was. Thank you.
With what we're asking and what I'm asking now, the commission to delete the conditional use on the applicant. In effect, if this is adopted, then it would be, this would be one of the few places where it would be permitted. So I think it is important to understand where it is. It's on Cove West. There's Mr. Shortkowski has rehabilitated shopping center there. And there's also been some rehabilitation, but it's all offices and commercial uses.
it's actually between Central Park West Rehab for physical location, the traffic light, and Speedway. There's the retail building that sits next door, but it's the old car wash that was torn down. Not the new car wash, it's crammed in there, the old car wash.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else from the zoning commission who has questions? I have a question for Daryl, I guess. With this change that they're saying to the conditional use, would that change any of the staff recommendations? Or do you think it would have changed the recommendation of the Lucas County Plan Commission?
No, I believe they had it as a conditional use right from the beginning.
Okay. So that's the way it went through the Plan Commission. That's the way it went through your analysis.
Yes, yes. And again, conditional use goes through the Plan Commission first and then to our Board of Zoning Appeals.
Any other questions or comments from members of the commission?
Hey, Daryl.
Yes, sir.
Just real quick again, on the currently with the off-premise sign regulations, you say there's no conditional use required. Is that why the applicants wish to kind of pull that back out, because that would be kind of an adverse effect? for the rest of the folks who want to do something like this? Is that why we're essentially pulling that back out of there?
I'm sorry, what is it we're pulling out that,
Well, they wish to strike the verbiage as a conditional use.
oh,
And
I guess I didn't catch that. I'm sorry.
And-
Okay.
And in your staff analysis, that was one of the negatives to this, that it could, create some long, a couple different meetings in a couple months and take the fee from 50 to 250.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. Certainly if this were to go through and billboards would be allowed in the township, I think the zoning department would be preferable to it going through the conditional use process. However, the person that wants to put up a small off-premise sign like the ones we typically deal with, and it doesn't come up often, but yeah, those we would, again, not really want to see them have to run the gamut of the conditional use just to put up a 15-foot tall, 72 square foot sign.
okay.
I don't know. Did I answer that well enough? Or?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from members of the zoning commission?
Yeah, Mary, could I just ask Daryl if he received any correspondence from Chief Ram, the fire chief?
Yes, Chief Ram actually called me earlier today. He had, I guess, just heard about this from a resident, I think it said. And he expressed his concerns as far as it being a distraction to motorists and felt that there could be some safety concerns to this sign. I mentioned that the meeting was tonight. I think that was probably kind of short notice for him, but the trustees would be hearing this on November 4th. And if he wanted to say something at that meeting or submit something to the trustees beforehand regarding it, he was, of course, more than welcome to.
Sure. It's just a congested area, so that's why I wondered. I know there's a lot of traffic congestion and accidents in that location as it is. So I just want to know if we had any of his thoughts, or even the police chief, you know what I mean?
Right.
Madam Chair,
That's the phone call from Chief Ram. And he did reference the billboard sign that's on the corner of Talmadge and Sylvania, inside Toledo. Maybe the applicant can speak to how this would compare to that as far as size or anything. I'm not sure if it's really a fair comparison or not, but anybody that's been by that sign, it's pretty distracting.
Madam Chair, may I comment on both of those issues? Okay. First of all, the proposed sign would be much smaller than the one on Talmadge. And because it would be very similar to the Taylor sign that's presently located on Central Avenue. So it's much smaller than the Talmadge and Sylvania sign. As to distraction, I'm not going to hold myself out to have any of be near the qualification of the fire chief. But when there was the adoption of digital signs, or they were coming into being, that was a great concern. And so exhaustive studies were done by governing bodies like the state of Ohio. And this sign has to meet those requirements. And after you get all done, quite frankly, they're not a distraction. No more distraction than the Taylor sign is a distraction. I appreciate the fire chief's concern. I'd love to sit down and discuss it with him and go through all of the data, but the state of Ohio spent years coming up with the standards which are now imposed. This applicant will, if this is granted, this applicant will then have to apply for a state permit and meet those safety requirements. And for example, this location had to be more than 500 feet from the edge of the entrance of onto US 23 for that very reason, so that there would not be distraction.
Can I ask a question? Will the sign that you've referenced, the distraction, is it one of those signs where the display change it, or is it a fixed display?
No, it will be no modern off-premise signs or static. It will be a fixed display, but how quickly it changes, the intensity of the lights, the nature of the lighting itself, all of that is governed by the state of Ohio, and they have gone before adopting these standards. They have done exhaustive studies and have concluded that they aren't distractive as long as they're not at certain points, like entrance and exits on expressways, for example, or at the corner of a intersection. And in fact, the zoning regulations in themselves, Sylvania zoning regulations, prohibit those kinds of things. For example, this is not at an intersection. This is not an intersection because there's a barrier across Central Avenue. So you're not going to have traffic going in multiple directions. And that's one of the considerations of not wanting this kind of sign to distract somebody who's turning, for example.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from people?
There's none of these signs in any agricultural zoning? Daryl?
No, this would only be in C2.
What about industrial?
No, only C2, general commercial. The original request, in addition to C2, included all three of the industrial districts, if I'm not mistaken, M1, M2, and M3. But the revised request is just for C2, general commercial.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other additional questions or comments?
Mary, will we have further discussion after a motion?
You can do that. I was just about to say, why don't we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion so we can move on with some further discussion. So I'll make a motion for the approve the zone change.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, motion and a second. It sounded like you wanted to make some comments, Mr. Kriege.
Yeah, I appreciate the property owner's concerns, but I almost feel that these restrictions are so concise now that we're almost creating a monopoly. And I don't believe our zoning board is in the business of ruling out uses we have on, agricultural right now, industrial, commercial for off-premise signs. And now we're essentially making it so restrictive, so tight that it can go in one spot. So, there's only a few business owners or property owners that can utilize this. So I just want to know the board's thoughts on that. I mean,
Well,
sometimes you can
I would say,
over restrict something so much if it can only go in 1 or 2 sites. I mean, we're essentially creating a monopoly for those few business owners in these districts.
Tom, my personal feeling on that is that I think if there were to be an approval of a sign of this nature, that C2 would be the only place that it may be appropriate. I sure wouldn't want to see it out on no offense, I don't want to see it out on your farm, Tom.
Sure. But I think there's already
you,
enough distractions in these areas that I don't know if we need billboards that close to Central Avenue in this district. I see your point. That's where they could be best utilized. There's high traffic counts there. But I just feel like we're condensing this so tight, and we're making more work for our BZA in the long run to be approving these.
but if I'm not mistaken, the motion was to strike that conditional use, so it would not go in front of the BZA. Is that correct?
Yeah, then that makes it even worse. That's one more protection we were going to offer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are there any other comments, questions, thoughts? Hearing none, I guess we can call the roll.
Okay, Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Zabel. What was that?
No.
Ms. Himmelein,
No.
Mr. Cott,
Yes.
Mr. Kriege.
No.
Let the record reflect that there's a 3-2 vote on the motion to disapprove. And now it will go to the trustees, I believe. For consideration.
Yes, the trustees meeting again will be, because of the election on Tuesday the 3rd, the trustees meeting will be on Wednesday, November 4th. And that will be at 6 p.m. for the zoning of that meeting. It will be a virtual meeting.
Okay. Moving on then to the next one item we have to deal with, zone change request on Holland, Sylvania. Daryl, do you want to take us through that?
Subject property consists of a 1.29 acre approximate square lot fronting onto Holland, Sylvania Avenue, just south of Brent Road. A nearly 14,000 square foot multi-tenant office building constructed in 1984 sits in the center of the parcel. 2 separate drives provide access to the site from Holland Sylvania Road. Office buildings abut the subject property to the east and south. A restaurant/bars to the north, and to the west on the opposite side of Holland Sylvania Road is a bank and the Sylvania Township Administration Building and service garages. The applicant is seeking a change in zoning from C4 professional business office to C2 general commercial. It is the intent of the applicant to have the option of leasing office space to smaller commercial uses, such as a nail salon and massage therapist, that are not permitted uses within the C4 district. The C2 classification would permit these uses while still allowing for office uses. This use/zone classification is seen to the immediate south of the subject property, where a multi-tenant office building is sited on a C2 zone parcel. Sylvania Township Land Use Plan recommends neighborhood mixed uses for the triangle, bounded by Holland, Sylvania, Brent, and Haroon roads. This use is defined in the land use plan as all uses and activities are inside buildings that do not exceed 10,000 square feet in size, may include small local businesses with convenience type goods, personal services, office buildings, and high-density residential uses, typically located at neighborhood activity nodes such as major street intersections. The corresponding zone districts for this use are C1, C4, R3, and R4. Aside from the size of the existing building, both the current and proposed uses meet the above definition, as does the current zone classification of C4. The proposed C2 classification does not conform to those zone districts recommended in the land use plan for neighborhood mixed uses. However, C2 zoning abuts the subject property on the north, south, and west. At its September 23rd hearing, the Lucas County Plan Commission unanimously recommended approval of the subject zone change request. Staff recommends approval of the zone change request from C4 Professional Business Office to C2 General Commercial for the property located at 4930 North Holland, Sylvania Road for the following three reasons. One, the proposed zone change is consistent with neighboring zoning to the north, south, and west. Two, the proposed zone change is compatible with neighboring uses to the south, east, and west. The proposed zone change should have minimal, if any, unfavorable impact upon the surrounding area.
I see that Mr. Leidy is with us. Did you want to, you're the applicant, I believe. Did you want to address the board? Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Mary. Haven't seen you in a long time.
Been a while.
Yeah, if you have any questions, just historically what happened is somebody approached us. We've had a vacancy in the building, maybe 450 square feet, a small little office. Somebody approached us. They wanted to put in a nail salon, a single person, solo person. We checked the zoning didn't permit it. This was probably 3 or 4 months ago. Frankly, I think that person has probably found another place, which is fine, but we thought that just in case that possibility would arise again, one of the tenants wanted to put in a massage, possibly a massage therapy, one of the psychologist office in the building. So that would be require a change in zoning as well. So that's why we are here.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Leidy? Does anybody have any questions for Daryl about this proposal or comments that they want to make?
Just a quick question. How many vacancies are in the said building?
Just one. Just
Thank
that
you.
that one little space.
Okay, so you're pretty much fully leased out.
We're fully leased out except, it's a 10,000 square foot building. We've got 450 square feet to rent. So yeah, we're in pretty good shape.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Daryl or Mr. Leidy?
I might indicate, Mary, that we are surrounded by C2 zoning. Daryl indicated that property to the north, of course, is the restaurant, that's C2. Property to the south of us was a dentist office, may still be a dentist office, that's C2. Across the street is all C2, except for the township building. So we're not really changing a whole lot.
You are changing a lot. Any other comments or have a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval.
I'll second.
Did we hear a second?
Yeah, Kriegy second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion, comment, or questions? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Okay. Mr. King,
You're muted, John.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Zabel,
Yes.
Ms. Himmelein,
Yes.
Mr. Cat,
Yes.
Mr. Kriege.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Nice seeing you.
Nice seeing you, Mary. Nice seeing all of you. Bye now.
Okay, Daryl, I think that takes us through the agenda unless you have anything else for the good of the order.
No, just want to thank everybody for getting their Sylvania Township emails addresses set up. Hopefully everyone's able to get to it now. I guess if anyone's still having problems, give me or Sammy, our IT / administrative assistant, a call or shoot us an email or something. But
I just want to know if they have a good way to get rid of the 3,000 junk emails that have been sitting there since 2016.
Before we leave, I misspoke on my text amendment vote. I was actually reading, Daryl, your thing, and I was meaning to say, yes, I agree with your denial. So I don't know how I go about doing that, since obviously that I've never done that before.
So that would have made it a 4-1 vote, is what you're saying?
Correct. I don't agree with the text amendment change, is what I meant to say, but I was reading Daryl's thing when you were calling the roll call.
Already failed.
Okay,
So
but I want my vote record.
pass that on to the trustees.
Okay, I just want my voting record to reflect what I really meant to say.
Okay. I mean, the motion already failed, so it doesn't change the result. And Daryl can just make that note, I think, to the trustees.
Okay.
You can reflect that note in the minutes, that there was a misunderstanding.
Thank you.
So regarding deleting all those emails, Mary, I don't know if there's a good, easy way to do that or not.
It's just an interesting pastime.
Yeah,
Do we have a meeting?
There should just be some way to bulk delete emails or something. Maybe there is.
I will just have to work through my logistics because we have a firewall that will not permit me here at work. And it's important things like this are always much easier for me to get through work instead of as we all know, the 400 junk emails we get a day on our personal. So I'll figure out how to work through that.
Do we have anything next month then, or do we know yet?
No, we don't.
So the next meeting would be in November. No, December. I'm losing track of my month.
Right, yeah.
The next possible meeting would be December. So, and we'll see how everything's going by then. Someday we'll see face to face.
That'll be nice.
We need to talk about before we have a motion to adjourn?
No,
There's no meeting in November, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Okay, Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Zabel,
Yes.
Ms. Himmelein,
Yes.
Mr. Cat,
Yes.
Mr. Kriege.
Yes.
Okay. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
You too.
All right.
Righty. Thank you all. You too.
All right. Turn the recording off, Daryl.
I clicked on stop.